Welcome everyone, one and all. This is the 17th episode of the Unbanned podcast, and this week we have one thing to say. Unban Mox Opal. Or probably not. We haven't really seen the format yet. People are freaking out.
I think it's better to unban the artifact lands, because I like Affinity being the best deck.
I second that.
My name is Jake, and this are my two best friends in the whole world. Justin.
That's a mistake to be one of my best friends.
And Jordan.
Be more positive.
and Jordan.
I am Jordan.
He is, and he's very positive, unlike certain other challengers of the dubious kind.
I don't know who you're talking about.
And this week, we are here to talk about Theros. Theros Beyond Death is coming out this week on Arena and MTGO, and next week, officially in paper, pre-release is this weekend, so lots of stuff to look forward this week. Let me say this week again. We're going to go into our top 10 Theros cards for each of us, but there was a pretty big banned and restricted announcement today. Modern has lost, sadly, our prince, our Fae king. No, he's not a prince any longer. He is a king. He might even be a thief of crowns. Oka's been banned in Modern.
Hooray! I haven't been playing Modern, but just watching it has been really boring. It's just Oko versus Oko every game.
I played 2 prelims on MTGO, and it was frustrating. So, yeah, that's my take on it. I don't miss Oko. I don't think any of us do, really.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of just mandatory to ban Oko at this point.
I mean, as long as he's in the format, it's just going to be Oko v Oko. He's always going to be the best thing to be doing in any format that he's in. He is now a vintage staple. He's been sent to the realm of Gitaxian Probe and the Power 9.
I'm gonna give Wizards an April Fool's Day suggestion. They should ban Oko and Pauper.
Just in case he ever gets in.
If that card ever got printed at Common, we know Magic is dead. Aside from Oko, which a lot of people kind of guessed was coming based on the recent results from SCG tournaments and GP Austin, there was also a banning of Mox Opal, which is quite the big ban there. $450 down the drain. Sorry if you bought in recently. And a little odd, Mycosynth Lattice. Mycosynth Lattice, something that I personally wanted banned, but I didn't think we needed it for competitive diversity. I just hate that flipping combo.
I think it may have been better to just hit the Karn that made Mycosynth Lattice busted, but I can understand not wanting to get rid of Karn because that's an expensive card, and Mycosynth Lattice only became expensive because of Tron, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad I didn't get to do my Mycosynth Lattice Circles Recall combo before the card spiked in price, but I'll take the banning.
Play it in Legacy. Okay, moving on. So, Mox Opal was also banned. The Thief of Crowns has lost his crown. I just kind of zoned out for 1 second. You're like, all right, well, let's get going.
All right, let's talk about the previous 2 subjects.
All right, well, Mox Opal's a crazy card to talk about banning, and honestly, I want to see results before I even touch on it. I think it's a correct ban. I think Mox Opal is not a card that really fits what is legal and done in the Modern format. A lot of people are saying things like, oh, well, now Primeval Titan decks are really powerful, and Tron is just going to come back, and it's still like a turn 3 format, but Mox Opal was a 0 cost enabler. It enabled turn 1 or turn 2 ramp and combos in some situations. That's a little different from what Primeval Titan decks and Tron is doing.
Yeah, I really want people to talk to me. Honestly, at me on Twitter if you have a legitimate reason why Opal should exist, because I don't see one. It sometimes was literal Black Lotus, and at worst it was, hey, I'll ramp turn 2 because I don't have the artifacts this turn, but next turn I will.
That's some hyperbole right there. It's literal Black Lotus only makes 1 mana.
No, I'm not messing with you. There were a couple of there's a couple of situations with Mox Opal where it literally becomes Black Lotus, especially with Urza. It actually became insane. That's the reason why it got the banhammer of everything you could hit in the Urza decks.
One way or another, I think the format in Modern is being sufficiently shaken up, I am going to dust off my Tarmogoyfs and jump headfirst in sometime this week on stream.
You best be doing that.
I'll be playing Storm.
But before I get to any modern playing or any practicing in Pioneer, we have a brand new set to go through. Theros Beyond Death Top 10s. This is it. We are the end-all be-all. We are the most competitive, the most practiced podcast in the whole universe. So you know that I will put Oko at the number 1 of my Throne of Eldraine list, and not a useless artifact creature that has seen very little play.
Can we do a quick review of our ones? Like, mine was Mystic Sanctuary, and I think I was pretty good on that one.
Mystic Sanctuary has seen a lot of play. What was your number 1, Justin?
Mine was Murderous Rider.
Good pick.
That was a pretty easy shot, but a good pick, yeah.
It's no Oko, but it's seen a lot of play.
As far as our efficacy as being prophetic, I think that everyone should immediately buy out every card I have on my list. They're gonna spike, you know it. Don't sue me.
All right, well, I will kick this party off with my, I have a few honorable mentions. I'm just going to run through them really fast. I only really want to talk in depth about 2 of them, and those cards might be on your guys' list, just don't tell me. Temples are reprinted. They're fantastic. They're not going on my list, though, because I did no reprints. That was one of the rules I gave myself. Field of Ruin, also on there. Grey Merchant of Asphodel, one of my favorite cards, and I'm very excited to play with it again. Underworld Dreams, another reprint, very exciting for me to play with. I don't think it would actually hit the list, but I just want to talk about it. Banishing Light also probably would be like a 10 maybe. I think it's important enough for white to get something that makes that color better, because it's not seeing a lot of play in standard.
Or has for the last year.
Yeah, it's been having some problems. We have a few good white cards in this set, though. Maybe we'll get something back. And then the intervention cycle. I actually posted on Twitter about the intervention cycles. In most decks where they do what your deck wants to do, I feel like these should just be like a one of. They're really quite flexible. They're really quite good. I don't think any of them are bad. I guess Perforos' intervention is kind of not great, but...
Don't you say that about Perforos'
I was
intervention.
about to say, that card says burn on it. That's all Jordan's territory.
That card is fantastic. It is always on rate removal, and then when you need it, it will hit your opponent in the face really hard.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine, and the flexibility...
That being said, it's not on my list.
Yeah, the flexibility makes it nice, but... I don't think... I think it's probably the worst one. Probably Nightlias is probably the worst one. Never mind.
I don't even know what Nightlias does.
You search for lands and kill flying creatures.
Nightlias you could probably leave out of your deck. I take that back. But the other 4, just include them in your decks. They're quite good, I think. And then on to my 2 real honorable mentions. First one is Heliod.
Oh.
Oddly enough, none of the gods made it on my list. The activations for the devotion just all seemed too high. Maybe I am just not used to playing with the gods, so I'm overestimating this. But then on top of that, I think Erebos is the only one who their abilities is like really attractive to me. Nylea seems pretty powerful, but on 4 mana, I don't really want a grindy engine like her for 4 mana, to be honest. I'd rather just play another Planeswalker.
There's just too many good Planeswalkers, I think. We have so many win cons. We have so many ways to end the game that it's hard to find places to slot the gods in. I don't know, maybe new archetypes will emerge, but with the old format, it just kind of seems like they don't fit as well. We'll have to see how everything shakes out.
Well, and when I was building decks, a lot of the gods ended up as like a 1 or 2 of, which is pretty much what you expect with a legendary, like, engine, not always online creature. They never really felt like they were the most powerful card in the matchup or in the deck or anywhere. They just felt good. The other one I want to talk about, don't talk about it if it's on your list. I think Elspeth is actually bad.
I'll give you a hint. She's not on my list.
And as my favorite Planeswalker, I'll give you a hint. She's not on my list.
I think she seems like a good grindy card, but especially when you compare her to, like, Gideon Blackblade, she isn't as aggressive as that card. She doesn't really do as much as that card. She doesn't do as much in the matchups where I think white decks would want her. And there's really not any, like, white mid-range or control deck that is looking for a 4-mana walker like this. I just don't think that really exists. Ironically, the thing that I think she does best is gain you 5 life.
Yeah, and it's nice that you can recur her, but it'd be better if you could recur her with abilities that really had more of an impact. I think you heard it from the Unbanned podcast first. Elspeth is just kind of meh. All the walkers in the set are, and I'm on board with that. Fantastic.
Yes, please.
Let's move on to my actual number 10. Sorry about the long honorable mention. My number 10 for this is Ox of Aghanas.
I like the discard Ox.
It's a 3 red for 4/2 Ox. When it enters the battlefield, you discard your hand and draw 3 cards. It has Escape for red, exile 8 other cards, and then when it escapes, you put a +1/1 counter on it. So it's a 5/3 when it escapes. I'm not sure exactly where this goes best, but just the idea of escaping a 5/3 for 2 red that draws you 3 cards, that's really gross. That's really good. If you can set up that situation consistently, this card is one of the best cards in the set by far.
I genuinely think you will get a chance to set up that situation because I think Escape is very good. And I think there's enough things to stock the yard that you will see some Escape sort of dredgeless dredge decks.
I also am excited for this card in Pioneer because it seems like another way to trigger Prized Amalgam, and it kind of goes along with a lot of the Dredgeless Dreads lists there. Some people are saying it works for Dredge proper in Modern. I don't really see that. I think it's too much of an exile cost.
I kind of agree with them. I think Dredge in Modern is where this could go a lot easier because in Modern, you've got fetch lands, so you can stock your yard that way. And then also, Dredge in Modern is just more efficient at stocking the yard.
I guess so. But anyway, seems like a great card. Who's next?
I guess I'll go next here. So just a forewarning for everybody. From now on, the number 10 spot for me is going to be Justin's jank pick of the set.
I'm ready.
So last set was Happily Ever After. This set is Allure of the Unknown. Very similar to a certain card I love. It is 3, a black and a red. For a sorcery, it says reveal the top 6 cards of your library. An opponent exiles a non-land card from among them, then you put the rest into your hand. The opponent may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So it's basically reveal top 6 dubious challenge, just they cast the spell and you get the cards in your hand.
So, is that where you're thinking that you'll use this? Is as a dubious challenge, basically, and where you play like Tristani and just get back whatever they play, or they just, as they don't have to cast it?
They do not have to cast it, so it's a weird card that I think could work in some kind of way. Like, I'm trying to think exactly how it would work. Like, maybe some kind of weird self-mill deck, but so you play mill cards, and then your opponent goes, I guess I'll pick the mill card, or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to get played, but it can be played somewhere in a jank deck, I feel like.
Either, so you could play it with really powerful spells that target and play stuff like Leyline of the Void, or not Leyline of the Void, Leyline of Sanctity, so they can't target you with it.
There is potential there.
Or you could play a bunch of like free counter spells. Like in Legacy, you can play with a bunch of Force of Wills, and then it's like, oh, I have a bunch of counter spells that I will give him, or I could take the big thing.
What's the payoff there?
I don't know. What's a really strong spell that you could have in there, or a really strong creature? I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure, but I could see this potentially working with my next card, but I'll get onto that when we get to it.
All I know is that if you make a deck with this before Wednesday, you should send it to me.
I could try for sure.
I don't know if we've mentioned, but Jake is in the preview event, so he's going to test all of our decks for us.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm going to be in the Early Access Streamer event. That is a sponsored stream, and I have to say that every time I promote it, because they're sponsoring me for it. Hooray! So exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'll be tuning in. So, Jake is shining pretty bright over there, so I think we should match him with my number 10 pick. I think you guys can guess what it is. It's Heliod. Sun Crowned. Now, normally I don't go white. That's just not something I do. I'm not a big fan of white. It's my least favorite color. But I love this card. I love the fact that it's a powerful white card. I feel for all of the white mages who like to play like White Weenie or Taxes and just haven't gotten anything. So I'm glad they got a pushed mythic in Heliod Sun Crowned. He is objectively better than a lot of the gods. And I love that he combos off with Walking Ballista for 2 reasons. On the one hand, I'm totally going to play it because it'll be fun. And 2, it might end up with Walking Ballista getting banned, which I'm on board with. So I really like him just because of the implications he has on Pioneer, really. I think it'll be interesting to see that happen.
So I don't rank cards on these top 10s based on anything but standard. I look at it for standard playability as much as I can, because if I sit there and go like, oh well, Underworld Breach could probably be really good in Legacy and Vintage, I will sit there trying to get my list sorted for way too long, so I just focus on standard. Heliod Suncrowned does not seem very good in standard.
I was going to say, but he seems very good not in standard.
I wasn't going to really talk about it, but it's a 3-mana enchantment that says, when you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. I wouldn't play that. I wouldn't play that if it had the ability, it turns into a 5/5 later. And its additional ability of giving something lifelink is also not something I would play. So I'm not going to be playing Heliod unless someone shows me that he is worth it.
Now, the thing we mentioned before is that he does need more lifelink, and it remains to be seen whether his combo is that good. But I think also in Modern, I think he fits because White Weenie kind of already played stuff like Walking Ballista, so you can just throw this in. I'm curious. That's why he's 10 and not 1, though, is because he's not amazing. I like to see that he's pushed. I like that he combos. I am interested to see what happens because of him.
Enough making fun of Heliod. My number 9 is Nadir Kraken. It's 1 blue for a 2/3 creature Kraken. And it says whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1 generic mana. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on the Kraken, and you create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token. I have no idea what deck this is going in, maybe like a mono blue devotion list. But this card seems really good. It's whenever you draw a card, so if you draw multiple cards, you can activate multiple times. And this guy gets huge! Like, you play it on turn 3, and it's a 3/4 plus a 1/1, at the very least when you draw on turn 4, and then all you have to do is opt and pay again, and then it's a 4/5.
I do like that card. It seems like it's pretty good, honestly. I like the number of draw theme type stuff there is, because I feel like that's part of what was in Eldraine that wasn't fully explored, so now maybe we can see the blue-red draw deck happen.
Maybe Nadir Kraken's part of it. I think the card's very good either way, and I think that it also just... Can you imagine playing this in like a blue-white control mirror?
Seems pretty nasty if you ask me.
All right, on to Justin then.
On to my number 9. My number 9 had the amazing power of making Eldrazi Conscription cost $5 on December 30th to costing almost $10 on January 12th, and that is Storm Herald. It is 2 and a red for a 3/2 human shaman with haste, and it says when it enters the battlefield, return any number of aura cards from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to creatures you control. Exile those auras at the beginning of your next end step. If those auras would leave the battlefield, exile them instead of putting them from anywhere else. It's just a super combo card. It's written on its face like, hey, I'm made for a combo deck.
Storm Herald seems really powerful if you have an ability to like actually put the auras in your yard. Something like almost like a Jeskai list where you use like self-mill and then you put in a bunch of good white auras and then you just Storm Herald and...
Or you pay 5 mana to draw 5 cards to the Lure of the Unknown, so you have to discard.
That's true. You could do it that way.
I'm just saying, that's why I'm saying they went together.
I wouldn't do it that way, but you could do it that way, yes.
It also works with your number 10, Jake. Was that the Ox?
Does it work with the Ox?
Discard your hand.
I guess. But the Ox is expensive. It's like 5 mana, so you know.
No, but the Ox makes you discard your hand and then Storm Herald. It works!
That you're right, that is a combo. I would be excited if that worked.
I'm excited to see Justin do it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you put together with this guy, but I tried and I could not find it.
I have a modern deck put together on MTG Goldfish right now. That is the deck at this point right now is what it is. And it seems okay on the face, but it's easily beatable.
So on to my number 9. This is probably going to be a lot higher on other people's lists, but I don't just rank on standard playability or playability in general. I rank on what interests me. And my number 10 is Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. This is a legendary creature, Elder Giant, for 1 generic, a green and a blue. When Uro enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. Whenever Uro enters the battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Then you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. that's untapped. It is a 6/6, and it has escape for 2 green and 2 blue, and exile 5 other cards. This card just is going to continue blue-green's dominance of standard. The reason why I like it is because it goes in my Tatiova deck, and I like blue-green anyway, so, whatever. It's going to be awesome in my Tatiova deck, though.
I'll be the first to say, Wizards, quit printing this stupid effect on cards.
It's really powerful. Like, there's so much land. I'm curious to see what happens when Zendikar hits, and we have all this mana to play with.
Oro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, is my number 1 pick for the whole set. I think that it has applications in Standard in the pretty obvious places that are everywhere. I think that it has applications in Modern to some effect. I think that it's kind of just a nice explore effect to have in certain decks. Maybe like Primeval Titan decks could use it. It's a little bit more expensive than they're used to for an explore, but you never know.
It has the upside of being a 6/6 later, so it's worth it.
Yeah, having like your own mini little Primeval Titan that's not a real Primeval Titan, but it gains you life, I could see that being very helpful in a lot of matchups. And in Standard, it's just gross, guys. If you put a land on the battlefield with this thing, and then you do something even crazier, like play an Arboreal Grazer with it and then play another land, you need 0 lands to play this because Castle Garenbrig exists. You could escape it right then.
You would still need the blue mana, but...
Yeah. The point is that you can play this, hit Arboreal Grazer, another 1 mana ramp spell that is in this format. You gain 3 life, you draw another card, and you get to put a land card. Like, that by itself would make this card amazing, and then it has upside on top of that.
Yeah, card's busted.
I'm really high on it. It's really busted. But again, I'm rating mostly on what interests me, not what I think is gonna continue blue-green's dominance in this format.
My number 8 for the set is a little weird. It's Woe Strider. Woe Strider is 2 and a black for a 3/2 creature horror. When Woe Strider enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 white goat creature token. And it has escape 3 black, exile 4 other cards. It gets 2 1/1 counters on it when it escapes. But the most exciting part, and the reason it is on my list, it has sacrifice another creature, scry 1.
Ooh.
Yeah, free sacrifice outlets are historically very, very strong in Standard. And on top of that, we are in a set with many cards that like to be in or interact with the graveyard. And on top of that, this card helps fuel a combo in a deck I have with one of my other cards on my list. It's my number 5, which we'll get to when we get there. But just in general, as someone who loves Rakdos, loves the Jund sack lists, Woe Strider looks amazing.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an Aristocrats list to be playing now, because we still have the white-black creature that deals damage when things are sacked, right?
Yeah.
And Judith.
Yeah, we still have Judith, we still have Mayhem Devil.
Still have Korvold.
I don't think it's going to be Jund sack anymore. I think it's going to be Mardu.
And I will try both versions, that is for sure.
Sadly, my number 8's not very special. Get your torches and pitchforks out. So my number 8 is Heliod. He's a combo guy, but not really amazing. But I had a hard time making this list, honestly.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I want to point out really quick, I also had a hard time with this list. There's a lot of good cards in this set. I'm just not all that interested in a lot of them.
There's not a ton of standout cards for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting as well because I read through a lot of the set. I haven't read through every card. A lot of the commons and uncommons I kind of skipped over. But most of the rares and mythics and like the uncommons that I noticed, they just seem... It's like Eldraine, where it's like, if this was another set, I would be floored that they printed this. Does anyone have Dryad of Elysian Grove? Can I talk about that? I think Tectonic Giant's a good example. Tectonic Giant in like any other set would be a staple in red, and I'm looking at it and just going, we don't have space and it's not powerful enough.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you, but what did you call your card again? The one you were talking about, the sack outlet.
Woe Strider?
Okay, I thought I heard a different name. Sorry about that.
It's Row Strider.
No.
Because he's rowing the river Styx.
All right, let's move on to Jordan's number 8.
This one's a bit of a cop-out, I gotta be honest. It's just something I'm happy is around. It's Heliod's Intervention. So, Heliod's Intervention is an instant X and 2 white for choose 1, destroy X target artifacts and/or enchantments, or target player gains twice X life. So this is clearly to me them showing some love to the life game theme, which I think could be cool. And the main thing I'm excited for is destroy X in artifacts and / or enchantments, because one thing that has been ruining my life in Standard has been cat oven, and so many cat ovens. Then I just want one thing that hits all of them, and now it's here finally.
Just in time for cat oven to not be relevant.
Yeah, it probably isn't relevant anymore.
I mean, it might be. I think the engine's still good. It's just there's a lot of graveyard hate in this set, guys.
Let's say I have one at higher up in the list that counters cat combo.
Let's get right on moving towards that with my number 7. My number 7 is Thassa's Oracle. Thassa's Oracle is blue for a 1/3 Merfolk Wizard, and it has a lot of text on it, so I'm going to take a breath. When Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game.
Wait, could you read that for me one more time?
No. Basically...
That was a good one, Jordan. Thank you.
Basically, if you have few enough cards in your list... and if you have enough devotion, you just win on the spot.
It's definitely a way to do it.
I think that this is one of the most playable win cons we've seen in a very long time. Yeah, you can kill it, but one of the biggest things I want to do with it is I want to blink this with Thassa over and over again. Because Thassa's upkeep trigger is that you blink a creature. So you're getting increased value from this by using its ability multiple times. And then on top of that, you can just... draw a bunch of cards and slowly work towards winning the game if your main plan, which the list I've built is basically like a beat down blue deck. If that doesn't work, you can just win the game with Thassa's Oracle. Oh, and this trigger goes off if you kill the creature or not. So if I have the win and you don't have some sort of stifle effect, I just win.
I like me a nice lab maniac effect. Sounds nice.
Yeah, it's a thing for sure.
Justin, you sound unimpressed with Thassa's Oracle. Would you like to tell us your number 7?
Oh, I wouldn't say I'm unimpressed with Thassa's Oracle. I think it's just super particular, but I'm not here to talk about your card. I'm here to talk about Nyx Bloom Ancient. For 4 and 3 green, it's an enchantment creature elemental. It's a 5/5 with trample, and it says if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. I just want to point out one quick thing. That does not say if you tap a land for mana. You know what else makes extra mana? Leyline of Abundance. So your creatures tap for 6 mana.
Not true, actually. I saw people go into this. The judge ruling says it would actually produce 4 mana.
Produce 4. Okay.
Yeah, which makes me sad.
You produce 3 and then it adds 1.
Which is less impactful. But still so busted. And that's why this is my number 4, by the way.
I just don't know if it's going to make waves in Standard that much. I think it's not just a commander card. I think you could also break this in Modern as well if you really tried. Like, I would love to try this in like a Helix Pinnacle deck.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just seems a little too expensive for Standard at least. And I'm saying that like Modern isn't a turn 3 format right now.
Yeah, so Nyx Bloom Ancient I think is definitely a commander staple, and I can't wait to put it in my green decks, Tatiova, as referenced. I like it in Standard as like a one-of. It's one of those things that like, if it resolves, which with the blue-green decks and Nissa, you'll be able to play this at some point, it's just win. So as long as it's not in your hand early and clogging up your hand too badly, it's good. And then once you do that, it's like you basically have infinite mana at that point. Even more than what Nissa gave you before.
I just thought about it that with Leyline of Abundance, a 1/1 counter incubation druid produces 10 mana.
That's quite powerful.
Wow.
And add 1 blue mana and you have yourself 4 cards and 4 life in your hand with a Hydroid Crisis.
And a 10/10.
And a 10/10 Flying Tramp.
Or you could go and make that a 10/1 red elemental.
Ooh.
Oh, no,
now you're speaking my language.
Once you have essentially infinite mana with this, you can do so much. The problem is getting it onto the battlefield.
It's just strange to see the words 3 times. as much on a card. It seems fake. Like, it seems like a fan card.
I think the card is a little too expensive and a little bit too vulnerable for me to like think it's really that competitively viable, but I'm going to try and make this list, and I'm going to try to hit someone with a 21 red elemental creature token.
Hey, I'll throw you a list with this in there for your event.
Oh, of course. That'll be great. I'm sure I won't lose.
Just make it blue-green and it'll be fine.
I feel so attacked. I'm sorry, but...
Okay, let's move on to my number 7, right? My number 7 is a little bit of a boring one, but at the same time, not really. Shadow Spear.
Ooh.
So recently, I've gained a love for good equipment. In Vintage Cube, I've gotten to play with stuff like GTA and the swords, and I really love slapping equipment on something. Ember cleaving people, fantastic. Shadow Spear is a good equipment, which I think is interesting that we're seeing that, especially with Zendikar coming up, where core interacts with equipment, and it's good, and it does something necessary. Because what Shadow Spear actually is a 1-mana artifact. It's an equipment, just one generic, gives the equipped creature +1/+1, and it has trample and lifelink, and you can pay 1 and permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn, and it only costs 2 to equip it. So it counters gods, which is both flavorful, good for mechanics, and good for your deck. It's on rate and powerful. It fuels the lifelink mechanic that I referenced earlier, the life gain mechanics. It's awesome. It's a really good card. I like it a lot.
This one just barely missed my list, and I think it's going to be really important going into this format if the gods are more powerful than I'm guessing they will be. I'm glad it's a card they printed. I didn't think it was quite powerful enough to be a staple in Standard. In other formats where Stoneforge Mystic is a thing, I could see it maybe seeing more play, though.
Ooh, and this also supports my conspiracy theory that Stoneforge Mystic is getting reprinted in a Standard.
And this also supports my theory that Wizards hates Bogles.
I think everyone hates Bogles.
Nope, that's a lie. That is a very big lie. That's a fat lie there,
Are
sir.
you the one who likes Bogles?
Of course.
Hey, notice it doesn't say permanents and players, so at least your ley line of sanctity is still online.
Yeah, I can't burn you out still. It's fine.
Whoa.
Alright, let's move on. My number 6 is a interesting card. Rather interesting. It supports a deck I've never played, and I don't know if I ever want to play it, but I'm still excited to see it printed. It's Cetesian Champion. It's 2 and a grain for 1/3. It has Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/1 counter on Cetesian Champion and draw a card. So the pretty obvious thing to do here is to slap auras on it, but pretty much any version of Enchantress just wants this card. You make a giant beater, it helps you dig through your deck for more enchantments. I just think it's great.
Yeah, this card was initially on my list, actually. I took it off, but it just seems like such a good value engine. Because it's just like, oh, play this enchantment, draw a card. Oh, play this enchantment, draw a card. And like super late game, this thing seems like an absolute house.
I mean, the other thing is that so many things are coincidentally enchantments in the set that there's a lot of synergy.
It's also a card that enables something in Pioneer, which is quite exciting. I could see more Enchantress stuff actually happening there.
Or maybe even a pseudo Bogles list.
Oh, Bogles has already been played in there, my friend.
See, the problem is Wizards hates it.
I mean, it is kind of uninteresting sometimes.
Yeah, so is Burn.
All right, well, Justin, why don't you go ahead and tell us your number 6?
I bet it's a burn card.
Good news. It's actually a card that interacts with enchantments. Or actually, it's a card that interacts with creatures dying that have enchantments. It's Hateful Eidolon. 1 black for 1/2 enchantment creature spirit with lifelink, and it says, whenever an enchanted creature dies, draw a card for each aura you controlled that was attached to it.
This card was also just barely off my list, but it just seems like such a good rate for a 1-drop.
It seems, you know what it looks really fun with, actually? It looks really fun with Woe Strider and Storm Herald.
Yes, it really does.
Card value.
Just drawing all the cards, throwing everything in your yard.
But it just looks fun. Like, is Deadweight in Standard right now?
Yes.
So yeah, you deadweight a little creature. Oop, look at that. That 1 mana just turned into a cantrip. That's pretty cool. Stack a bunch on there and they kill your creature. Well, At least I get to draw 3 cards from it. I think it gives you that, what is it, the card advantage that you're losing playing enchantments, because technically you go down 1 if you put it on a creature and the creature dies. It's giving you that card back, which seems powerful in my opinion.
Drawing cards is one of the best things you can do in Magic.
Sure is.
Jordan, before you fall asleep over there, what's your number 6?
Luckily, my 6th pick won't put you to sleep. If only it was a nightmare. No, it's simple. It's Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Another card that will continue the dominance of ramp decks, but I love it because it goes in my commander deck. You're seeing a theme here? What Dryad of the Elysian Grove does is it's a 3-mana enchantment, 2 generic, 1 green. For a 2/4 enchantment creature, it's a nymph, and it lets you play an additional land on each of your turns. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Why do we have more ramp in this set, guys? Why do they hate us?
Because this card's not very good.
Well, yeah, it's just absolute garbage. It doesn't turn on Valakut and every other one of those lands.
It does. It does do those things. In Modern,
Oh, wow.
in Standard, you don't usually play cards that say play an additional land because you run out of lands to play, and then it doesn't do anything.
You think we're going to run out of lands to play with Hydroid Krasis?
I think it's more than possible
have little
that this
faith.
card is not what you're looking for in those ramp decks.
It is possible. I disagree, but I don't know. I guess they don't have that much trouble ramping, but I'm excited to see what happens anyway.
I'll tell you what this card does really well. Totally stealing this from Corey Burkhart. This card makes it really, really easy to play Niv Mizzet Reborn on turn 5.
Mm-hmm. Wait, does it fix your mana?
It does, because they're
It
every...
says lands are every basic land type.
I thought it just added the type. That's even better. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it makes 5-color decks super easy.
And that is what I want to use this card for. I don't think it's good in the traditional blue, green, and ramp strategies. You'll probably play Hydroid Krasis in those decks, but I think the card's not very good in general as a ramp card, but it is really quite good as a fixing card that sometimes ramps you.
So what you're telling me is we can literally play 5-color lands.
I mean, you have Chromatic Lantern, you could have done that before, but yes.
But this interacts with lands. It's way better. We're playing 5-color green.
Chromatic Lantern gives you 1 additional mana.
This gives you tons of it.
Unlimited.
Well, and also, Chromatic Lantern gives you mana for 1 turn and doesn't let you get more lands, which is the problem with putting it in a lands deck.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that this card also does not get you more lands. It lets you put more lands on the battlefield.
This makes all of your basic lands basic islands for your Tempest Djinn.
Brilliant.
Something I was looking at in Pioneer was you play this card, play an extra land, set up... what's the card? It's from Corset...
While he's thinking of this, it also makes your Cabal Stronghold, or whatever that was, super better.
It's the card that when a land enters, it deals 2 damage, or you can draw a card, and it's in black. It's whenever a swamp enters.
Are you talking about Dread Presence?
What I want to do in Pioneer is play this, play Dread Presence in the next turn, and then play Scape Shift, and then all of my lands in my entire deck are swamps.
You could also play Tireless Tracker.
There's a kind of cool green-black lands list. Get Trog Monster is legal in that format as well, so you could very easily play like green-black lands in Pioneer, and I'm going to try that, but in Standard, I'm not very excited about Dryad of the Elysian Grove.
I think it'll see play.
Let me tell you about a card that I think will almost certainly see play, though. I would be shocked if this card doesn't see play, because I will be playing it as much as I can. It's Nightmare Shepherd. It's 2 black for a 4/4 flyer. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that is a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 and it's a nightmare in addition to its other types. So we were talking about how you have a free sack outlet now. Well, now you have a 4-drop that makes every single card in your entire deck a Doomed Traveler. And if one of those cards happens to be Grey Merchant of Asphodel, it is a Doomed Traveler that probably drains for 3 or 4.
Drains for 4 minimum. Or would it be 4 minimum? It's a copy, so wouldn't it have its mana cost as
I don't
well?
think so. No, I think it's a copy.
Basically, Jake has found a way to turn Gary into Siege Rhino.
And I'm all about Siege Rhino.
What I saw from this was that every single creature in your deck now has 2 ETBs.
Yes. 2 sacks, 2 ETBs. It's a value engine that's just built into itself. All you need is a sack outlet, which we have a free one now.
Sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit, getting a little hairy with these cards now that you're saying them.
Yeah.
Kind of
I
scary.
definitely don't have a Mono Black Devotion list on my Twitter that does exactly this, and that's the main core of the deck.
No,
No,
why would
never,
you?
never.
I could see this being a thing, for sure.
You're welcome, Aristocrats players. We're back.
They're like, man, we're not really giving Aristocrats much love here. Let's give them 17 pieces.
I kind of need it. I'm curious how Aristocrats plays in Modern, because it was already a pretty good deck, and it's gotten a lot of love in this set.
It's still not good enough. Spoiler.
No
You think?
1 mana hexproof creatures, though. My number 5 basically says no to a lot of the cards, actually, that we've talked about today. Pardon my pronunciation here. Kunoros, Hound of Athreos. It's 1 white and black for a 3/3 legendary creature hound with keyword soup, vigilance, menace, lifelink. Creature cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield, and players can't cast spells from graveyards.
This card's awesome. I love it. I did not put it on my list, but I love it.
Can you pet the dog, though?
You can pet every single head of it. I think this thing's awesome.
I replaced Oath of Kaya in my Esper Hero lists with this card.
It's just so... Oh, it turns off Escape. I love it. It just... it turns off Snapcaster and Modern. Like I said, it turns off Escape. I love it. It's better than Leyline of the Void, in my opinion, because it's not expensive.
I mean, you can't beat free for Leyline of the Void, just being able to throw it on the battlefield. But if you're in these colors, it also has Menace and Vigilance and Lifelink. So you can usually swing through a small board and just continually gain life as well.
Let's say it got the Questing Beast treatment of, 3 mana doesn't seem like a good payoff for 3/3 with Graveyard Hate. What else could we add to it?
Basically, they said, how do we make this playable? Because I would not play a 3/3 Graveyard Hate 3/3, because it just dies, and Grafdigger's Cage is in this format. But you give it Vigilance, Menace, and Lifelink? Yeah, I'm in.
Do you think they just have like a dartboard in R&D that they're like, all right, this creature isn't pushed enough. Throw 3 darts at the board, and whatever it hits, that's what we're putting on it.
Indestructible, hexproof vigilance.
Indestructible, hexproof trample. Oh, seems pretty good for our 3 mana 5/5.
No. What they have is they have a spinner that's just, it's a pie, like in half, and it's indestructible or hexproof, because you can't have those on the same creature. So you spin that, and it gets either indestructible or hexproof. And then you throw at the dartboard, and then you roll a dice for the last ability.
I think we're underthinking R&D here, but it just feels like what they do with them sometimes.
Well, I love the good boy. He's a good boy.
Very good boy.
He's the best boy.
All right, but you know what can stop the good boy? No, the good boy would love the water. My number 5 is Thassa's Intervention. I like the interventions.
It's another very good card that I couldn't find space for.
Thassa's Intervention is X and 2 blue, like all the other interventions. It is an instant, and it says, choose one. Look at the top X cards of your library. Put up to 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Or counter target spell unless its controller pays twice X. Let me just tell you about this card and why I like it. It is always on rate as far as tempo plays. You're pretty much going to be able to counter your opponent's spell on curve with them until you get to the very late game. And then once you get to the late game, you get to turn it into a nice little dig through time effect. I love it. So good. And it's instant speed.
I mean, to counter things, you usually would want to be at instant speed.
I prefer my dig through times to be actual instant speed instead of fake dig through times that aren't instant speed.
I'm just saying, we can't go through a single podcast without Jordan saying the dreaded T word.
What?
Gotta say tempo.
Tempo. Red blue tempo is actually looking good in this format. We got some love. We needed a couple things at the top end because it was just sort of medium before. And now we have that. This card by itself takes over that spot.
Yeah, it's a good card, for sure. I don't know how much the second ability is going to be used, in my opinion, except maybe early game. It seems kind of... It's like a mana leak, really. Like, late game. It feels like it's not really going to be necessary after a certain point.
I think the card's very flexible, and when you're playing a control deck, you're happy to give up a little bit of power for flexibility. This will be a player in blue decks for sure, I think.
Yay.
All right, well, Jake, what do we have at numero 4?
My number 4 is an old favorite, a returning character from the original Theros. Pelucranos, Unchained. Pelucranos is 2 black-green for a 0/0 zombie Hydra. Don't worry about that 0/0 though. When he enters the battlefield, he gets 6 +1/1 counters. And if he escaped, he gets 12 +1/1 counters. If damage would be dealt to Pelucranos while it has a +1/1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many counters from it. 1 black-green, Pelucranos fights another target creature. And for 4 black-green, exile 6 other cards from your graveyard, you can escape it. I don't think that this is just a generic Kogari card. I think that you have to be pushing to play this. Like, you have to be fighting and pushing and actually being aggressive. And this does fight Questing Beast for its slot. But it's a 6/6 for 4, guys. And it can fight things. That's really good.
I feel like when we were how we were talking about keyword soup with the good boy, they did ability soup for Pelucranos. It's like, just keep adding stuff to it. And
We gotta make creatures good somehow.
they're like, yeah, make it escape with let's say 6 counter. 12? What?
I want to see someone just like proliferate this.
Okay, I just want to throw a suggestion out there to slap on this card, just to, for the fun. Hydra's Growth. I just want to run through this card real quick. 2 and a green for an aura. Enchant creature when it enters the battlefield. You put a 1/1 counter on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you double the number of 1/1 counters on the enchanted creature.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Yeah, big boy Pelucranos is back, and they're a zombie now.
He's feistier than ever.
Yeah, he's gonna fight you. He's gonna win. I think he's great.
He sure is.
No, he's not. He's awful. Anyway, what's your number 4, Justin?
Thinking of awful, that feels like what my entire list is. But you know what isn't awful? Gary in Pauper. Except that he's an uncommon now. He's my number 4. Have we talked about Gary yet?
We haven't at all because he is not allowed on my list, but I would love if you would tell me what Gary does.
Well, his name's not actually Gary. It's Grey Merchant of Asphodel. He costs 3 and 2 black for a 2/4. He is a zombie. And it says, whenever Grey Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life. Where X is your devotion to black, you gain life equal to the life lost. Ugh. This card's gross. This card's super gross, especially with all of the 3 black mana cards they keep printing, like Underworld Dreams and Ayara.
Yeah, there's a couple of cards that quickly push up your devotion, and there's a lot of stuff that you play in black that just sort of sits on the field, increasing your devotion. And also, you can play this in that Aristocrats deck that we were talking about earlier. I don't know, mono black devotion seems good too, so Gary will find a home. He usually does.
Here's the thing, he's good, he's best in a mono black devotion deck, but you technically don't even have to play him in a mono black devotion deck. Just having 4 devotion to black and going, you lose 4 life, I gain 4 life, that's an 8-point life swing.
Yeah, and in an Aristocrats deck where you're already draining your opponent, that's usually enough to win the game, I'm sure.
It's a ridiculous card. I mean, I'm glad they bumped it up to uncommon so it can't destroy you in draft as much.
Maybe they should have made him rare.
Mythic Rare, Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
They should have made the Grey Merchant of Asphodel Unchained, and he has escape. He's a zombie now.
Box topper.
This card is one of my favorite cards in Magic. This card is really, really good. I will play it until it rotates out of Standard, and then I will play it in Pauper and in Pioneer and everywhere I can because I love it.
You know, we said that Kunoros, or however you pronounce his name, is a good boy. I think Gary's the best boy.
The number of Garys I've countered in Pauper makes me happy.
He's the boy.
So my number 4 is not interesting because it was Nyx Bloom Ancient. I said that already, so we can go on to the next one.
Do you want to start with your number 3? We'll break it up. You can go first.
My number 3 is a big talking point, so let's do it.
Uh-oh.
My number 3 is... He has a different name, but to me he is now Perforos Bronzy Boy.
Before you explain the card, he is also my number 3.
Wow, so in sync. Hey, can you guys guess what my number 3 is? It might shock you. It's not Perforos.
Darn it. We're so close. The 3 of. So Perforos is 4 mana and a 4 generic 1 red for a 7/6 legendary enchantment creature god. He is indestructible. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, he's not a creature. Other creatures you control have haste. That's kind of a big deal for me, by the way. You don't get that often. 3 mana, you may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step.
That 3 mana also is 2 in a red.
2 in a red, yes. We have a sneak attack effect, and he's on a big red body as well, and they both have haste together. That's amazing. I am so excited to use this to sneak attack in a big pig, which will then sneak attack in another thing that has 2 red mana its casting cost, and swing for 20.
It's ridiculous. I love it.
Because you get to swing with Perforos. He'll if you play 2 things with 2 red pips in them, then both of those will count with Perforos pip and make him a creature, and then you can swing with all of them. It's amazing. I love it.
So what you can do with him, and this is what I was wanting to do as well, but it's hard to set up because it's a 3-card combo. You have Perforos out, goes to your turn. You activate the ability with Ilharg. Ilharg has haste, so you swing. Hopefully Perforos has enough devotion to attack at that point. I don't know how you do that, but hopefully you have enough. And then you play Drakuseth, so that's a 7/7, and when it attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target, so you're dealing 11 plus the pig, which is 5, 16, and then 7, which is 24.
Yeah, if you have enough that Perforos is online before you swing, then yes, it's lethal just with that.
I may be wrong here, but I believe the Drakuseth trigger does not trigger off of Ilharg's because it puts it in attacking already. I think it's one of those, like, when you play Kalia and Commander and you put in Aurelia with Kalia, you don't get the extra attack step.
But you can play the double striking dragon.
Yeah, you could play the double striking dragon instead.
I might already have a big red list built with him.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't the only person who immediately went to Ilharg when they saw Perforos.
It just makes sense because you double up the effect. And the thing I like about this is that he's not really off curve for the big red list. Like, 5 mana is a lot, but you can take out some of your other reach and you put him in instead. He kind of just slots in. Maybe he ends up being a 2 of, and sometimes you get to go off that way. But either way, he's a good card, and I'm excited to play some big red.
Looks fun for sure.
So since we're going in reverse order now, I guess we go with Justin next?
Absolutely.
Well, my number 3 was Perforos, so...
Oh, yeah. Never mind. Going with Jake then. What's your number 3 that didn't match us?
Oh, that's right. Sorry. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepped for this. It's Ashiok, Nightmare Muse. So, a little bit of backstory. The Game Awards comes around. I'm watching. They announce that they are doing a weird vintage legality tournament. But anyway, Elspeth and Ashiok are playable in it. And I play against Ashiok. And every time this stupid card sits on the battlefield for more than about 1 turn, I fall completely behind and lose the game. And then I was doing a little bit of theory crafting, and I put him in Esper Hero, and I looked at it, and it just fits so perfectly. It was so much better than Liliana. It was 1 mana less, defends itself a little bit better in certain situations, and then on top of that, I like this card a lot, is basically what I'm saying. I think it's really, really powerful. I think people are underestimating how often the -3 will just say, exile target non-land permanent.
Well, what does it do, Jake, since...
Oh, good point. Ashiok Nightmare Muse is 3 blue-black for 5 loyalty Ashiok Planeswalker. +1 is create a 2/3 blue-black nightmare creature token with whenever this creature attacks or blocks, each opponent exiles the top 2 cards of their library. People are also underestimating the exiling, but we'll get there. -3, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Then that player exiles a card from their hand. And then you can -7, and it says, you may cast up to 3 face-up cards your opponents own from exile without paying their mana cost. On top of it, if you just somehow get to 7 and they don't have anything exiled from Ashiok, but they have another card exiled somehow, you can just cast it.
That is pretty nice.
If you have Ashiok's Erasure, which is another card in the set, which is an enchantment that exiles a spell underneath it, you can cast whatever you have exiled under there.
Would you be able to cast opponent's adventures?
Yes, because they are exiled and faced up. But aside from the really cool ultimates, I think just making a 2/3 every turn is very good. I think that the actual rate of a 2/3 is surprising, because usually a card like this on a plus would make it 2/2, especially with an additional ability on it. And then on top of that, its defensive ability is really quite good.
Yeah, it's annoying.
You could do something like bouncing, banishing light, bouncing an enchantment-based removal spell, and maybe you exile it from their hand, but on top of that, you get your other card back. I think that there's a lot of utility built into Ashiok. I think he's really powerful. And a lot of people just don't seem to think that this card is going to be a player at all.
I definitely think it has potential. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I undermined it because 5-mana walkers aren't necessarily the best, but I could definitely see this.
Teferi, Hero Dominaria.
But he was different.
This card looks a lot like Teferi.
Thinking of looks, it looks amazing.
I wonder who drew it. If you guys don't have anything else, I'm just going to jump into number 2, because my number 1 has already been said.
Ooh.
Sure.
My number 2 is Wavebreak Hippocamp. Wavebreak Hippocamp is 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Horsefish. It's also an enchantment, if you care about that constellation stuff. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card.
I'm also excited for this.
Yeah, I just think this card's going to be really good in blue-based tempo decks. Things like blue-green flash, maybe mono-blue aggro will come back because of this. It fuels you in a way that is kind of hard to beat. And the fact that you land it, and then the counter spells that you use to defend it give you more gas, it's a play pattern that I could see being really, really strong.
I really enjoy drawing things when I counter my opponent's things, so I'm on board. For sure. It's amazing. It's fantastic.
Quench is really, really good when you tack draw a card onto it.
If you quench and then immediately after that do Thassa's Intervention, it's even better.
Quench, it's gonna warp the format.
So this turns opt into a draw 2 on your opponent's turn, too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Draw 1, scry 1, draw 1, but yeah.
Basically, is this common?
This is a rare.
No, it's rare.
Dang.
Come on.
I know.
You're lucky that Brineborn Shaman, or Brineborn Cutthroat, was an uncommon.
Fine.
Nothing stupid.
Fine. All right, let's get through these last 2. Go ahead, Justin.
All right, well, number 2 is a card that, Jake just absolutely loved in Standard. Dryad of the Elysium Grove.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good. I like the idea of being able to maybe play like 4 and 5 color decks in Standard.
Yeah, okay.
No, I got it. Yeah, I think it could be a big player. I just,
I think it's good. I'm excited. Honestly, I think it'll be good.
And then, have we talked about your number 2, Jordan?
Nope. My number 2 is going to be hotly debated. Hotly debated.
Oh, I like that word.
It's very hot. It is Phoenix of Ash. 1 generic, 2 red for a 2/2 with flying haste. It has the ability pay 2 generic and a red. Phoenix of Ash gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And it has escape. It can escape for 2 generic and 2 red and exiling 3 other cards. And if it escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it.
Oh, I'm just, not every Phoenix is Arclight Phoenix.
No, not every Phoenix is Arclight Phoenix, and this one's nowhere near as good. However, I think this is a lot better than what people are saying it is, which is, oh, this is the bad Phoenix for this set. Things I like about this card. So I don't really like the 3 casting costs. Get rid of that. The thing I like about it is that it's a payoff that you can hit from the graveyard that in Pioneer and in Modern to some extent, it fuels Dredge, which is good. In Standard, I think this goes into the escape list, because I think there is a list that is red and black and maybe blue that mills itself to play things with escape and just win the game with them. And I think this goes into that as a way to pressure your opponent.
I think this card is quite good. I don't know where it fits into any decks. I don't know what to do with it, but I think it's powerful enough that I will see some play.
Although it's my number 2 and I'm the most excited for it, because it's one of those cards kind of like Arclight Phoenix was last year, where everyone thought it was nothing and it ended up being amazing. If this card sees some play and is underrated, I think it'll be amazing to see that happen twice in a row. So I'm calling it now. I think this is a lot better than people are saying it is. I think that it has a place. We just have to find it.
For sure. So I hate to do a quick callback here, but you got me thinking of Phoenixes. Like I said, I hate to do this, but Perforos has a really funny card that you can combo with. Immortal Phoenix. It says when it dies, return it to its owner's hand. and it's a 5/3 flying.
Huh.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, that could be a thing.
It's from the what is it, the free decks that you give out at LGS's.
Really? That's interesting. Huh. I might have to try it. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry to go off track there, but I thought about it when you said Phoenix.
Okay, Jake, you're up.
What do you mean I'm up? We already did my number one. Oro, Titan of Nature's Wrath.
Oh, yeah, it
that's
was
right. That was so
Uro.
long ago. That was like
Wow.
an hour ago, it feels like.
It feels like it was years ago. Uro, again, is broken. So good.
I can talk about something else really quick.
What?
Oh,
I
let's hear
think
it.
Archon of Sun's Grace is better than Elspeth in white decks.
I don't know that card.
It's a 2 white 3/4 for a flying leaf lifelink Archon. Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink, and it has Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you make a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying. So I think you just throw this into like any sort of aura based deck, and you have your own army, and it all has lifelink.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty good.
It
to me.
also puts more power and toughness onto the battlefield than Elspeth.
More power and toughness?
Yeah. Elspeth makes 1/1s that are sometimes 3/2s. This is a 3/4. Justin, what's your number one?
We're going back to trends here, boys. We start with the jank card. We end with the mono black removal spell as my number one. Eat to Extinction. I don't think this card's getting talked about as much as I honestly think it should, because it's Vraska's Contempt, except you surveil one instead of gain 2 life. So it's 3 and a black for an instant. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard.
Yeah, this is a good card. It'll definitely be a player. I feel like this card is a safety valve for somewhere down the line, maybe in Ikoria, because as of right now, the only thing I'm really looking to exile is maybe Wicked Wolf and the Gods. I don't really see a lot of other really big indestructible things in this set, but maybe there will be.
You want to exile my Phoenix?
I mean, Phoenixes, sure.
I just love exiling planeswalkers.
Oh yeah, that's right. Exiling walkers is good too. You're right.
It's just so useful. If for some reason somebody's playing Elspeth, you're not escaping this time, Elspeth.
If for some reason someone didn't listen to this cast, or we were wrong, you're right.
Or you pulled one out of a pack and you're like, I need to put this in my deck right now.
Okay. Should I go with my number one?
Go for it.
My number one is going to cause a little bit of discussion, I think. It is Underworld Breach. Now, I've been talking to Jake and Justin. They know I'm high on this card. It is a 1 generic and a red, 2 total enchantment. It says each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to its mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Underworld Breach. Now, I'm not saying that this is as good as Yawgmoth's Will, but it's pretty good, and I'm excited to mess with it. I think even just playing fairly with it, like putting it in Phoenix and Pioneer, and even if I'm in the late game, I have 6 mana, and I go Underworld Breach, exile 3 cards, play a thing in the ice, exile 3 cards, play a thing in the ice. Even if that's all I'm doing with it, or just playing 1 thing in the ice from the yard, I'm happy with this card. Rebuying spells from the graveyard, even at the cost of thinning your graveyard, is amazing. I love it.
I think Underworld Breach is powerful, and I'm sure someone will break it at some point. I have been trying to.
It's going to be me.
For approximately 2 weeks since I saw it spoiled. Successfully did so in Vintage and Legacy, and not so successfully in every other format. But playing things from your yard, it's pretty good. You can do some crazy stuff. In Legacy, most of the decks I built were based around Lion's Eye Diamond and Brain Freeze. So if you have something for free that you can do.
I don't know if you could play Gift Storm. I think you'd rather play something like Mono Red. Because if you have this, you don't necessarily need the Gifts Ungiven and stuff. I'm not sure though. I might be off on that. Gift Storm is probably still the king, but I think there's potential. I've seen some Mono Red Storm decks in Modern, and there's some in Legacy, and I think you could play this as a way to go off.
Also, why does it have to be a Storm deck? Why can't it just be a Mono Red Burn deck that gets more lightning bolts out of the graveyard?
That as well. I thought about it as just, if you have 3 bolts in your yard, this is pay 5, deal 9, because you don't care about your yard. I think I initially thought to combo off with it. The thing that I've realized is that it really does the best in decks that don't care about the graveyard, where it can be essentially a treasure cruise, or, Yawgmoth's will.
I think at some point this card's going to be busted. If it's not busted, it'll probably be unplayable. Whichever one that is, we'll find out.
I think it's good. I think it's kind of like Aria of Flame. Everyone's going to underrate it and say, this isn't good enough, and then it's going to come out and be, in the decks you want it, it's very good. It's not for every deck, but in the decks where you want it, it's very, very good.
I'm just surprised that no one put the best card in the set on theirs.
Now I have my extra number 1, Riptide Turtle.
I was going to say the best card in the set is Heliod's Punishment, but yeah, Riptide Turtle, that's pretty great.
Riptide Turtle, 1 in a blue, 0/5 flash defender.
Oh man, he's getting in there. He is defending.
It's pretty busted. He
Maybe
looks cool.
Maybe she's defending. I don't know.
This turtle looks cool. It's got freaking 4 flippers. And then 2
It's
back
got little
flippers.
head spikes. I've decided that this is a female turtle, and she is going to wreck you.
Yeah, the flavor text says the same thing about that.
I'll be honest, guys. I have no idea how to end this episode.
Well, I will take it over for you. So, everybody, if you agreed or disagreed with our top 10s, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter and stuff. Jake will plug us the end there. And yeah, we're all pretty excited for Theros. I'm kind of medium on the set, but it has some sweet cards. Even if it just gave me Underworld Breach to play with, I'd be happy with the set. So I'm pretty excited. It looks good.
Yeah, it looks fun. Like, there's nothing that stands out as, oh no, this is going to warp the format. Unlike the last set, which had 2 of those cards.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
I didn't see Oko coming. I put him at number 10 on my list. A lot of people didn't see Oko coming, though, so I don't feel bad about that.
I feel like no one's seeing the Underworld Breach coming or the Escape deck that's definitely going to take over the format.
But I'll tell you this much. No matter what happens with Theros, this will be my first set where I got to play in the early access streamer event. # sponsored. Thank you, Wizards.
Yeah, Jake's going to go kill it out there and tell us what's good.
Yeah, thank you, Wizards, even though you didn't invite me.
Go get affiliate. Go do the work, dang it.
But, yeah, it's kind of weird to think about that Ikoria is only 3 months away, and we were talking about it like it was years away. Time flies when you're having fun on a podcast, you know?
Really does. And I need to go build more decks, so we're going to wrap this thing up. Justin is Dubious Challenger. He's Dubious_Challenger on YouTube and Twitch, and he's Dubious_Justin on Twitter. Go follow him. Check out his jank brews that he's working on. We got Is It Fox? That's Jordan. He's Is It Fox on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, pretty much everywhere you can find him. He is under that wonderful Izzy name. And I am Jake. I'm Jake the Jackal, pretty much everywhere. Just Google me. You can find me. If you are interested in any of the cards we talked about, come watch my stream on Wednesday. I'm doing the early access streamer event sponsored by Wizards. I think we talked about it 4 times because I'm super excited about it. And I don't want to stop talking about it. And I would really love to do more of this streaming thing. So come hang out, guys.
Show him your decks, and then he will maybe play them if they're cool.
I will almost certainly be playing viewer decks because I'm sure I'll run out of decks at some point.
Yeah, so come and watch.
It starts at 8 a.m. PST, so that's 9 a.m. my time. I will be in there from the very beginning. It ends at 6 a.m. PST the next day. I will not be streaming until the very end because I like sleep.
I'm going to hop on his channel and stream for him. I got this.
But I will probably be streaming well into the night, probably at least 10 hours.
It's going to be strange when it sounds like me streaming, but it's actually just you.
All right, take us out of here.
If you guys like the show, check us out at patreon.com/unbannedcast. It's where you can support the show and get access to our Discord server and hang out with all of us.
And the Raw episodes, which I won't forget to upload this time.
And now, before we go, we have one last thing to do. I'm sorry to say, Mox Opal, it's time for you to be banned.
When are we going to ban Oko again? He needs to be banned
Never.
again.
He's just going to stay banned.
Banned in tiny
He's going
liters.
to stay banned.
Hey, I'm just happy I'll never have to invest $450 into those things. Fantastic. Sorry for everyone who lost money, though.
Banned in Brawl.
See you guys next week, and have a good pre-release.
See ya.
Ban Oko Unlimited.